Well, after a week off due to a podcast sanction suspension, I am back with the Titus and Sergio Variety Hour, I being Sergio Paradise, and of course, I'm joined as always by Australian Ninja Warrior, Titus O'Reilly.
I didn't even watch it.
Well,
Did you watch it?
We had it on in our house. I really didn't care, but the boys watched it and they really enjoyed it. It just reminded me of It's a Knockout with Billy J. Smith and Fiona, whatever her name was. But for what it was, it did well, and it was very successful in the ratings too.
I was watching Melbourne play Carlton replay.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Well, I was at the game, so we were.
I'd watched it live, but then it was such an amazing win.
I've recorded the replay, and I want to watch the last quarter again.
When I watched it live, I thought that the fix was really in against Melbourne, with the umpiring being terrible. When I watched it back, it was a bit calmer. I just thought the umpiring was terrible across the board.
Oh, I reckon, both sides
copped it.
Copped a whack yesterday.
I was reading Twitter, and half the people, all the Carlton fans were complaining about the umpiring, and all the Melbourne fans were complaining about the umpiring.
That usually means the umpiring's pretty good.
No, but
bad across
and it was just terrible. Each side had fair complaints. But we should start off. It's good to have you back, Serge, and we should start off by thanking the supporters who donate money to this podcast and to my writing and let us do all this. So thank you, one and all. You can join up and become a supporter at titusoreilly.com. There's a support section there where you can go on and you can get T-shirts and caps and all sorts of things. One of the things supporters get was they got the ability to buy tickets in advance, part of the pre-sale for the tour we're about to do. Most of these are all going to... I'll go as far as saying all of these are going to sell out and are well on their way, and a few are very close. So Comedy Theatre in Melbourne is on 31st of August. Friday, 1st of September, we're in Sydney. 2nd of September, we're at the Octagon Theatre in Perth.
Wow.
Now, we don't want to do what Warwick Capper did. No. Did you hear what Warwick Capper did?
Now, didn't he get locked out of his hotel room or locked somewhere in a hotel?
He went to go to the gym and accidentally... instead went to the door next to it, which was to the stairwell, and got locked in the stairwell, and came out and he said later on, he thought to himself, he was in there for an hour. Wait till he learned that it was pull, not push.
Yes.
He could have got out of it anyway. He thought it was locked.
Stairwell on the door.
And apparently he was in there for an hour, and he said he felt faint, and he said, I thought I was going to die in a stairwell in a hotel in Perth, and he said, I'm a star, I'm not meant to go this way, I'm meant to die in Vegas. And I thought, this is exactly how I imagined you dying, Warwick.
Or whether it's Perth or it doesn't matter whether. I would expect him to die that way in Vegas as well,
Yeah, not glamorously.
Not glamorously.
So I'm hoping that doesn't happen to us when we're in Perth. We should be all right.
We'll be right.
We can read, so that should help us when we know the difference between stare and gym.
When he said he was going to the gym, it reminded me of that scene in The Simpsons. Remember where Homer looks up at the big gym and he goes, Gime? What's a gime?
On the Saturday, Saturday 2nd September, we're in Perth. This is all the bye week before the finals.
Yep.
Sunday, 3rd of September, we're in Adelaide. And Monday, the 4th of September, Monday night, we're in Canberra. And I said last week, Serge, in your absence, it looks like we're going to be locking in dates this week, announcing, I think we now have venues, but we haven't announced it all yet, for Brisbane and Hobart.
Wow.
So there you are, Brisbane and Hobart.
Well, those two cities on top, because we're doing 5 cities in 5 nights.
Well, now I think it's going to be 7 in 7 nights, because it's looking like we're going to tack them on the Tuesday and Wednesday night.
We're working harder than Paul McCartney.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to Adelaide.
We're doing Adelaide, unlike Paul.
So people in Brisbane and Hobart, I'm expecting you to come after complaining to us that...
Yeah, there's been a lot of complaints that we weren't going to
there, and we are, well, both. And so
it would be
I'm going to be annoyed if they don't.
It'd be kind of funny in an ironic way if they refused to buy a ticket just to annoy us, because that's the sort of thing I would do.
So anyway, look forward to seeing people come along to those. They're selling really quickly. So
we got a lot planned for these shows.
I'll put the link into the tickets in the podcast show notes if you want to.
And I don't want to give too much away, but I'm trying to get Mike Tancred to appear at the Sydney one.
He's gonna ring everyone who buys a ticket and threaten their life personally, which we'll look forward to. Also, just some final business. Last week I forgot, as is our tradition, to announce who won the T-shirt.
Oh, the best question.
So the best question went to Big Ted. So Big Ted, I'll be in contact with you, who said, how much cleaner has the AFL been since they clamped down on the jumper punch?
Well, that's true.
So sorry, Big Ted, I forgot to announce that, but that is just our way. We are we are hopeless.
Yeah, we are.
I also want to thank Danny McGinlay for filling in for Serge, and also providing a useful bargaining chip if Serge wants to move away from a revenue sharing model. I've got a scab that will cross the picket line in Danny. Joe Sayers wrote in, Danny McGinlay seemed to laugh at more of your jokes, Titus. In terms of ego stroking, can we expect more appearances from him?
Oh, don't get ahead of yourself, Danny. That's all I'd say. I'm doing a Kane Cornes here. Don't get ahead of yourself.
The difference is Serge has heard all my jokes before.
Yeah, I've heard them, and
he's a bit jaded.
Yeah, water off a duck's back. Whereas Danny, he's young and enthusiastic. Two things that we're not.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we have to start off with talking about what was arguably the funniest night I've had in a long time, and that was watching Richmond beat Richmond.
Did you watch this game?
Oh, I
did. The first half, you're right, it was. I just couldn't stop laughing. Every time St Kilda kicked a goal, I'm just going, this is getting funnier and funnier.
It was... Every now and then people say as a phrase, the team didn't show up.
Yeah.
It really was like the team just didn't show up. That second quarter where I think Richmond kicked one behind and St Kilda kicked 9 goals 5 was just some
yellow witches' hats they were.
That was arguably... Well, witches' hats at least serve a purpose.
Well, that's true.
But this was just... It was... I don't know how Richmond fans... Imagine Richmond players had the resilience of Richmond fans.
Oh,
they would win premiership every year. Like fans were leaving. You were texting me saying a mate of yours who was at the game.
Yeah,
fans were streaming out early in the second quarter.
He texted me. He's a Saints man, and he said, "You're like this. There are Richmond supporters leaving 12 minutes into the second quarter, which has got to be a record."
But I can't even blame them.
The game was over.
But that performance, the players don't deserve you to stay.
No.
There's this thing of staying till the end for your team, and we've all done that for, our teams. But this wasn't. They just, why should the fans show up if the players are going to turn in that?
Yeah.
It was 82 points at half time.
But you kind of knew that they couldn't be as bad the second half, but they kind of were in the third quarter. And the last quarter, some junk time goals to take
it meant nothing. I mean, I know people said, at least they came back a little bit. It's like, it was over. It was just they were broken. Yeah. They were a broken side. It did, of course, give us an enormous amount of people writing in questions. I could have filled in maybe 2 or 3 podcasts worth of content
questions coming in before you even called for questions.
There were. People were coming with all sorts of things. Now, I've screened this for 9th jokes and haven't put any of them in. Because as you know, our rule, I love a good 9th joke, but it's so well mined as a concept that you have to do something amazing to make a 9th joke
There has to be a twist or an angle on the 9th joke that hasn't yet been seen.
You can't just say, Richmond could still finish 9th.
Yeah, that doesn't cut it anymore.
You got to really, find something interesting. So Nick C wrote in, does Richmond's brand of footy have a refund policy?
Well,
I got to say, that's obviously, I'm imagining Nick's a Richmond supporter. I think with Richmond, it's buyer beware. You can't claim that you didn't. You bought knowing what you were buying with Richmond.
You can. There's only be a refund policy if you can prove it was faulty before you purchased it.
Yeah, it's like buying a broken washing machine and then
no exchanges just because you don't like it. It's like a T-shirt or something.
Yeah, I bought this pink T-shirt and I don't like the colour.
Yeah, sorry, sir.
Shane just wrote in, why Richmond? Why?
I feel for Shane. I feel his pain.
The thing about this is we both laugh at Richmond, but I actually feel incredibly sorry for their fans because I've got a friend who's a Richmond supporter. He lives overseas.
Yeah.
This is the peak Richmond. He's flown back for a week a couple of weeks in Melbourne catching up with people, and he scheduled one day at the footy, and he's been looking forward to this as Richmond. He's been looking forward to going to the footy because he hasn't been for 3 years because he's been overseas.
And it was Saturday night.
He's been talking to me about, I just cannot wait to go to the footy. I cannot wait, and at least the Tigers are half decent this year, and he went on Saturday night.
Oh, poor bastard.
How bad is that?
Poor
First
bastard.
game in 3 years. I text him, at least you got a true Richmond experience.
Oh.
You're not going to miss them when you go
Poor
back
bloke,
now.
3 years, and he's sitting there watching that trot. Halfway through the second quarter, he's going, be better off sitting in a bar in Hong Kong or
That's
something.
right. It's terrible. I really feel for him. Matt Holland wrote in, was Richmond's loss all part of their plan to be involved in AFLX?
Well, yeah, I don't know if it was part of their plan, but they're looking more and more likely to be involved in AFLX the way they're going.
It's such a bad performance. It reminded me a bit of Adelaide's first quarter against North Melbourne earlier in the season.
Oh, yeah, what happened now? It was when North, they kicked 10 or something, or 11
something
in
ridiculous.
the first quarter.
And you look at those games and you go, it was almost like on Saturday night, do you just say, look, that was one of those games where just for whatever reason they just mentally weren't up for it and they were blown away and it just doesn't almost count because that's not going to happen again, kind of thing. But because it's Richmond, you kind of go, oh no, but it could happen again.
Well, it just shows that they're capable of that, you know? I mean,
it's got to put doubts in your mind, doesn't it?
Oh, I mean, and Richmond supporters, if they don't already have enough doubts in their mind, they watch that and they go, I don't even know what we're watching.
Yeah.
What club, what team's out there? So,
Damien Rufus Nolan wrote in, should the general public be concerned or has the Melbourne Zoo caught the 22 tigers that went missing on Saturday night? And Wayne Mopar May, that's a great name.
It is.
Seeing as kids can't kick the footy at halftime, could they have had a kick in the Tigers' forward line in the second quarter?
Well, they could have brought the Oz Kick kids
They
out
might
there.
have used the ground.
They may as well.
They were just everything that's meant to be like Richmond's strengths. Like Alex Rance is meant to be well, I was going to say greatest defender ever, the greatest athlete of all time.
Yeah.
Forget Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
You know, it's Alex Rance, and then there's Daylight, and then there's Michael Jordan and Carl Lewis, and you know that's the way. If I'm going off the commentary at the moment, he was touched up by elderly pensioner Nick Riewoldt. The St Kilda defence only had to really touch the ball about 3 times because it never went down there. Yeah. And then Dustin Martin and Cochin barely sighted the ball.
They couldn't get near it.
Jack Riewoldt couldn't get near the ball, but at the same time, like, it wasn't going down there. So, you know, they should have just put him in defence. They should have just put everyone in defence.
The other side of the coin, is this a bit of a scare for everyone because of St Kilda? Are the Saints any good?
Well,
I mean, geez, they played well the other night.
I've always thought St Kilda are better than they've played this year, and they've always been. And what's been weird about them this year is last season I always thought they always gave it their own. They're a hard-working team, and it was whether they were players were going to come on quick enough. But this was at Etihad, and it was against Richmond. Richmond. So you don't know. I mean,
on a Saturday night.
How much credit do you give to St Kilda? How much do you give to Richmond for this outcome? Because
that's my question.
Or is it just one of those times where one team's on, the other team's very off, and that's when you get these kind of outcomes?
Well, I think the other thing is that we're not used to blowouts this year. There hasn't been as many blowouts like that as
there's been a couple of weird ones like the North Melbourne.
But generally, each season there's a couple of or a few absolute smashings like this from a top side to a bottom side, as you'd expect. This year, every game seems to be tighter and closer.
Yeah.
I think so. We're all a bit surprised that there was such a blowout. But on the other hand, as you say, it's Richmond, so your surprise is tempered slightly, you know.
Well, I was saying this would be more... I tweeted while this game was on, this would be more surprising if Richmond weren't involved.
Right, exactly.
And one Tiger supporter wrote, this is the most accurate and depressing thing I've ever read. So that's the thing where Richmond fans kind of...
Well, that's right. They could argue that Richmond weren't involved.
That's true.
From the moment they ran through the banner, they remained uninvolved.
After the game, Damien Hardwick was, let's just say, not the most happy man in going around town. And he got in a bit of an argument with former Premiership teammate Kane Cornes.
Yeah, because they both played in the Port Adelaide Premiership, didn't they?
And they've both had a few... So Kane Cornes has had a few goes at Richmond over the course of the year. And Damien Hardwick obviously has noticed and not been thrilled about it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if these two just don't like each other to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
I mean,
sort of stuff he said has been taken as a...
Just because you've played in a footy team together, you don't have to like every one of your teammates.
How many co-workers have you not liked? On this, do you like all your co-workers on this podcast?
Oh, the jury's still out there. I mean, there's sometimes you just do things because they work. It's like Kane Cornes and Hardwick, both made up. Were integral parts of the Port Adelaide Premiership team.
So in future years, are you going to be slagging or something I'm doing?
Oh, more than likely. As soon as I walk out this door. Jeez, I was okay, but he was ordinary.
So they had a bit of a go at each other with Cornes. He had a bit of a go on Twitter. Doesn't Twitter create a lot of issues? Oh. My thing about Twitter is everyone's banging on now and saying social media is a real problem. We've had players with depression, but we've also just had players banging. It's just they say it's a big issue. My thing with Twitter and social media is, I'm not saying it's not an issue, but it's really just showing everyone what everyone said before, but now you can just see it.
It's public.
There's nothing that's being said on social media that I don't think everyone in pubs and
I was about to say that
haven't
been said with a beer in your hand and standing with a bunch of your mates.
Even the players say this stuff off the record. They all very much know who they think is weak or or a bad person. They all say it, or they say, I remember talking to one AFL player, current AFL player, who was once telling me quite openly that he thought North Melbourne were incredibly soft.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and this was last year.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's interesting. So they all do it too. Like, that's the thing. But social media just puts it all out there.
I've had a similar thing with having a drink with a couple of AFL players. This was probably 3 or 4 years ago now, so some of them probably aren't playing now. But they weren't dismissive of a team as such. But they were like, and I was just sort of saying nothing but listening. And they were like, so-and-so from Collingwood, he's as soft as butter. Yeah, and then the next one, what about... Oh, yeah, he's hard. I've never seen him put his head over the ball.
But social media suddenly is like taking that and then putting it in what used to be the paper or something.
Wouldn't you love to see the players do it, though? Accusing each other of being soft.
Oh, yeah. Well, they just do it on the field.
Yeah.
So anyway, Cornes during it, he said that if a top four side concedes 32 inside 50s in 45 minutes of play, it means you've got ahead of yourself. No other explanation. Anyway, in the media conference, one of the journalists asked Hardwick about Cornes' tweet, seeing a chance to give him. And Hardwick said, seriously, I'd love to see Kane. I'd really love to see Kane. Don't get me wrong, that's his job. He's there to write shit comments. So he I'd love to see Kane. Yeah. Is that where Jake King and Ty Vickery got that sort of thing from? I tell you what, no one's sending any of the current Richmond players to recover money from anyone.
I saw you wrote that the other night. That was just one of your finest. But he's there to write shit comments, he says, about Kane Cornes. But I've been no Kane Cornes fan over the journey, but I've got to say, when Richmond plays shit footy for
I didn't think it was a particularly harsh... of all the tweets on Twitter, that was not even...
They got ahead of themselves. It's not exactly the most brutal criticism that could have been levelled.
It's not... Yeah, it's not... I mean, it's obviously Hardwick has got a problem.
I was about to say, it's who said it. It's not what he said.
Yeah, that's
obviously.
Right. So Matt Lane wrote in, did Kane Cornes decide to resign from the Metropolitan Fire Service because he felt he was better at starting fires?
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
Because he has quit his job as a fire, hasn't he?
He quit after less than a year.
Yeah, because there was the big song and dance that he was retiring to become a fire.
Retired early to become one, then didn't even, I don't know.
Did you ever put out a fire?
I don't think so.
Do you just like the uniform?
I think so.
Rolling out the hoses.
I think everyone likes
putting the big yellow hat on.
I've worked with
the fire
service before, not as a fireman, but in the industry, and so I knew a lot of firemen and a lot of great guys working it. But they tell you that it's a very different job to what people think. People think you're going in and it's action. But actually, so much of the work they do these days on stopping fires ever starting through building design and they still always have the risk of something really bad happening. But a lot of it's a lot of time. Community education.
Hanging around and office work.
Hanging around, a lot of community education and stuff like that. It's very different to...
Taking the
So it's not
big
very...
fire
so he looked at it and probably went, oh, well, I could be putting out bin fires sometimes, or I could have my own radio show in
I could
Adelaide.
be getting paid a lot better than this.
Yeah, so he kind of...
without the risk of...
He didn't last long at all. The other one we should talk about, just that blew up a bit, and whether someone's got sensitive skin or not, is Clayton Oliver.
Oh, yeah.
Melbourne can't get through a week without controversy at this time of year. It's amazing to me how we've gone from being the team no one cares about.
No.
In fact, when you bump into people, they say, who do you vote for? You go Melbourne, they go, oh, yeah, I reckon you guys are going to be good soon.
Yeah.
They've been doing that for 10 years, and it's like, you know, they're just being nice to you because you're the kid that fails everything, you know. Like
for years,
you're such a non-threat.
There's never been a story about Melbourne in the paper like 3 times a season. Now it's back page or second back page every second day.
People hate some of our, like they hate Bug, they hate
Jordan
Oliver, they hate Jordan Lewis.
He got booed all day yesterday by the Carlton supporters.
Yeah, well, he did break Cripps's jaw.
Yeah, which was fair.
But it was just a hairline fracture, come on.
Well, I must admit, when he iced the game with that goal after the siren yesterday, a bloke beside me stood up and yelled out, what did he say? Hey, you Carlton supporters, I hope Cripps applauds him now. You've been booing him all day. I thought, oh, mate, just settle
down,
mate. We won the game.
I tell you what, Carlton fans, like, Melbourne had a lot of injuries, so it was a great win by Melbourne in some ways. But you have Cripps going off was pretty lucky.
Oh yeah, because it was always going to be a danger game for Melbourne with all the midfielders out.
Well, they shouldn't have really won, I don't think.
Jesse Hogan looked like he needed the run.
Just slightly. Yeah. I mean, he didn't do it. He doesn't like second efforts all the time, Jesse.
No.
And he didn't look fit at all. He looked gassed by and.
So, as I say,
they had to play him because everyone else was out.
But I was thinking it was going to be a tough game at any stage. But at halftime, I was very relieved to hear that Cripps wasn't coming back on because he there
was no mistake. They got their run going, Melbourne, once Cripps went off.
Yeah.
And being 2 people down.
So,
when you're so injured like Melbourne were, that was the only way they were going to make it a slightly even contest, to be honest.
So Clayton Oliver.
Clayton Oliver went up to the fence at one point because the ball had gone out that way and he'd run his momentum, carry him to the fence. And a Carlton fan over the fence had a bit of a go at him. Said he was a weak something.
Yeah.
And Clayton Oliver apparently fired back, touch me again, because he brushed the player, brushed his hand.
Incidental contact.
Yeah, it was pretty light, but at the same time, the player, I thought 2 things. I thought, one, the fan really got up in his face a lot more than he should have.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, I thought Clayton should have just ignored that.
He should have just walked away.
Because then it would have been a question about, did that fan get too involved? Yeah. Not Clayton responding and threatening to kill him or something.
Yeah.
Whatever he said.
Yeah.
But then I also thought, well, is this that big a deal? Like there's going to be an inquiry into it and everything.
Well,
and the guy says he wants an apology.
He wants an apology from the Melbourne Footy Club.
I'm like, mate, you got stuck into him. He got stuck into you. Now, should he have got stuck into you? Maybe not, but you shouldn't have got stuck into him. So just cancel each other out. Both be, adults and just go, you know what? I was being a bit of an idiot and you were being a bit of an idiot.
Both agree to say, we both probably stepped over the line a bit.
In the emotion.
But nobody got hurt, so
20 years ago, can you imagine this being an issue?
Oh, of course not.
And the thing is,
20 years ago, Clayton Oliver would have snotted him.
Probably. Clayton needs to probably not take the bait so easily.
Yeah, he should have just backed off.
But the guy should have been less in his face. But at the same time, I think, well, I don't know what was said by the Carlton player or Melbourne. And even if it wasn't a Melbourne player, right? So to take my own bias out of this, say it was, Tom Mitchell.
Yeah.
I instantly look at it and go, okay, I don't know what was said. So who's in the wrong? Well, who's in the wrong here without me knowing what was said? Well, one of them's a Carlton fan. So I know who I'm siding with.
There you go.
And the other thing is, it's not like Clayton threw an invisible spear at him. Because
that's crossing the line. crossing the imaginary line.
Yeah, Goods threw an imaginary spear at those Carlton supporters. That was when I knew the world had gone mad.
Yeah.
When everyone was going...
The world was,
Everyone was going... It was very threatening how Goods threw an imaginary spear at a group of Carlton fans. And I thought... I wouldn't care if he'd thrown a real spear at...
Well, as I think we said at the time, at least least the smarter Carlton supporters held up imaginary shields.
You can still go up to Sydney and imagine where the spear hit. You can see the chair where the imaginary...
There's an imaginary plate where it would have landed had it been real.
So anyway, obviously the Carlton supporter was in the wrong because he's a Carlton supporter.
And he wants an apology from Melbourne. And
look, my thing in all seriousness is Clayton was an idiot to fire back, and the guy was an idiot to be that in. Yeah. And so two idiots cancel each other out in a maths equation. Last I checked, so move on. Is basically it. North managed to lose another close game.
Geez, they're good at that. They are the league leaders.
Do you reckon Chris Connolly looks on and goes, "Now that's how you tank"? Why didn't I think of that?
Exactly. You don't throw games by 15 goals. You just lose 15 games by under 6 points.
Well, they've lost 7 games this year by under 15 points. Now, if they'd won all 7, they'd be in the top 8.
Yeah, but
and if they'd won even 4 of them,
one of the only close ones they've won was against Melbourne, and they're lucky to get out of jail there.
Yeah, so it's been you either look at it and go, they are that close to being a good side that don't panic. Next year they'll get this back, or because it's a young side and all that.
Or they're no good.
Or you look at it and go, they need to. Brad Scott said my favourite thing. I mean, Brad Scott just keeps on giving, but he came out and he said that bringing up that stat because he was asked in the press conference of how many close games they've lost. He said, I think he said something like it's petty to bring up the stat. What did he say? Something like petty or something.
Yeah, see, if you're
I'm just trying to remember the exact
the
word
North Melbourne
board,
you probably don't think it's that petty.
Well, that's the thing.
If you're a North Melbourne supporter, I wouldn't think it was that petty.
No, what did he? I'm just going to find his exact quote because it was terrific. Because it was peak Brad Scott sooking.
Yeah,
he loves a sook. And he came out and when asked about... Because it's a legitimate question, you've lost 7 games by 15 points. He said, he said bringing up those stats is incredibly shallow. Well, you and I are incredibly shallow, shallow, so I don't mind bringing them petty, up at all. Who says that as a coach?
Incredibly shallow. What?
It's a fact. It's not like the stats are
stats can't be measured in depth. As in... Now, here's a stat that carries some weight. Here's a stat that's incredibly shallow.
So the coach is going to go, look, it's really low of you to bring up that we keep losing a lot of games.
Yeah.
It's really what a low blow. Why are you constantly bringing up the fact I can't coach? That's what I was just going, please, Bradley,
Yeah.
So Sean Carroll wrote in, why does yet another North close loss hurt so much? Why am I not used to it yet? Why can't we bring back the 90s? Why?
Well, you can bring back the 90s. It's called Triple M.
Or just tune into the footy show.
There you go.
Jack Kerrin wrote in, North Melbourne, the sneakiest team at tanking.
Now, Jack's, this is what you're talking about.
He's nailed it, Jack.
I think Jack's right in the money here because this is possibly the cleverest way of tanking that you can think of.
Yeah.
As I say, don't make it obvious. You can argue that it's shallow, but you lose all these close games.
But
you're still going to finish 17th and get the number 2 draft pick.
But my understanding of it, and by this I haven't watched any of it and have no clue myself, but reading a few people who are experts in this, it's meant to be a pretty weak draft this year. So of all the years to tank, this isn't the one, which would make it very North to be tanking.
Yeah, I did read that the next draft is going to be a belter.
Is it?
But this year's not the strongest. Well, having said that, you never know. In 5 years' time, they might look back and go, geez, that 2018 draft is the best
super
one.
Draft.
Is the best one since, Hodge, Judd and Rewald or whatever it was,
Now, the Giants drew again on against Hawthorn. This is the second week
back
in
to
a row.
back.
Now, the last time this happened, where a team drew 2 weeks in a row.
Right.
You would remember this well.
Yeah.
It was 1921.
Oh, I do remember that. Was that University versus Fitzroy? Or?
It was Carlton drew twice that year, and they went on to lose the grand final to Richmond.
Right.
So that's how long ago it was. Richmond were winning grand finals. So that's how long. The AFL brought in a new rule. There can no longer be draws in the regular season on the back of the Giants losing 2. Now, in the case of a draw, the Giants just get 4 points.
They just win.
Even if they're not playing.
That's fair enough.
Any draw now gets
That's
4
understandable.
points. They just keep finding ways to not impress you, the Giants, at the moment.
I mean, yeah, that's true. I mean, you know how good they are. You look at their list. You look at it's a superstar riddled team.
Yeah.
But they can't seem to, as you say, do enough for you to go, they're that good. They are going to win the flag. No, they're not.
They do have, in a very talented, deep side, they do also have a lot of injuries. Like people like Toby Green being out is a huge issue for them. So you kind of look at it and go, look, what are they, second on the ladder now?
Yeah.
Like, they're not doing great, but they're hardly in dire straits.
But they're not doing badly either.
And if they get all those players back over the next few months, which quite a few of them will.
They will. Oh, they'll be a force. I only saw a bit of this game, but the one bit I saw that Josh Kelly do about 4 things, and I thought, that's why everybody wants him. That kid is a dead set star.
I'm torn about it because Melbourne gave him up to get Tyson and Hunt and also Salem. Because Hunt and Salem especially, and Tyson's been decent, but not great, but, not amazing, but
he's not
solid.
A superstar.
But Hunt has been, if Hunt wasn't as good as he's been, you'd kind of look at it and go, that was a bad, but to get 3 decent players basically for one is pretty good. But he's a great player. Look, they've got all the talent. It's funny, I can't look at a side this year. Adelaide are on top, but you wouldn't think they're premiership favourites the way everyone talks about them because so many teams have gone and beat them by impressive margins at various points.
Well, after this weekend, I think St Kilda are now the new premiership favourites.
But the Melbourne media always pick
Richmond
the highest.
were the week before and Melbourne the week before that.
But that's just the Victorian media.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Meanwhile, the Swans are just sneaking up on everyone.
And it's the battle of the bridge this Saturday night, I think. So we'll see how good the Giants are after they play Sydney. Because I've got to say, the old Swans, they're the dark horses. They're my grand final favourites at the moment.
Already?
Well, they know what they've got to do to get there.
Yeah. And
they're quite capable of winning on the day.
Yeah, well, they're a great example of they had their injuries in that first 6 weeks and they're slowly starting to get them all back and suddenly it looks good. But you don't know this season. They're just as likely to rattle off 5 losses. Yeah. Like, you just don't know. That's what's so fun about it in a way. And also, reason we're all going to, have a stress-related disease in the end of it. Peter wrote in, is GWS's 2 draws in a row a bid to attract Western Sydney Wanderers fans who are accustomed to draws too?
So that's not a bad question.
That's a very good question, Peter. So it's been a crazy one. The one thing I just, before moving off the round of footy that I thought was interesting, it's a bit like I felt we lost 2 coaches this round.
Yeah.
That were always in the hot seat, but in Buckley and Eade.
Yeah.
Poor old Rocket. Poor old Rocket for not being able to coach. Rodney was never the answer up there.
No, he was the...
This isn't with hindsight. I said this when they appointed him.
Yeah, it was always a bit of a risk because he's been one of the sort of favoured sons at the AFL for so many years.
But based on what? Like, Sydney went well when he left.
Yeah. But And then he went to the Bulldogs after that. After Sydney. But after Sydney, he was an assistant at Collingwood.
Yeah, he was a football manager there, and haven't they done well?
Yeah.
So, and then the other one, of course, is Buckley. Buckley's finally, I think, you knew because Eddie didn't come out and...
Well, Eddie's in London at the minute.
Oh, that's convenient. Why is he in London?
I'm not sure.
Oh, they've got ratings break in the ratings.
Yeah, in the radio. All the radio shows are off at the minute.
Yeah, so that's probably why. So anyway, it's just enjoyable watching that happen. It's a sad day when the sun sets on the Buckley era.
Who said it last night? I think that Buckley should part ways with him immediately.
Oh yeah,
like just get rid of him now.
Because that will do a lot.
Yeah, because that'll help.
Have you heard the rumours that keep? And there's been the media been brought up in lots of places that the AFL or the Suns, depending on who you talk, are trying to engineer a move where Buckley leaves Collingwood and goes to coach the Suns. Why would you be trying to engineer that move?
I haven't heard that one, but no, can't see it.
Like, surely if you're the board of the Suns, who have made terrible decisions all the way along, you should be trying to get someone who can coach to be your next coach.
Get a Paul Roos or somebody.
But even you'd be better just taking a chance on an assistant coach.
And there's half a dozen of them going around at the moment who have been knocking on the door.
Why is the myth that Buckley can coach, but it's just not getting the breaks, so pervasive, so strong that people in the media, like Gerald Waitley, who I respect generally, he was saying earlier in the year they should reappoint him for a couple of years to take the heat out of it. I'm like, are you serious? Like, since what's happened then with, like, why do they all? It's because they like him.
I think it's a bit of both. The commentators all know him and like him.
Yeah.
Like I know Buckley, not well, but I know him, and he is a ripping bloke. Yeah. But it's not the old AFL good bloke syndrome. I think it's also so many of his players come out and speak highly of him as well. He's not one of these coaches who has to be sacked because he's lost the players, but he's always kept the players, and I think that's why people keep saying, "Oh, he's a good coach," because his players still like him.
But that's like saying, the students love this teacher because he lets them. We used to have a great teacher, right, who was our maths teacher.
Yeah.
And he was a massive motorbike guy, right?
Yeah.
So we knew if we got him talking at the start of the lesson about motorbikes, he would always go for 40 minutes. We wouldn't do any maths. Now, he was a great guy. If you'd asked me at the time, do you like him as a teacher? I'd say he's one of the best teachers ever, and got to get him. I hope I get him next year. But here's the reason I can't count to 10.
Yeah.
Like we were all hopeless at maths.
You know more about motorbikes.
Oh boy, did I learn a lot
you've
about
never ridden one.
I didn't even listen when he would start talking, but it was so easy to go, hey, sir, tell us about do you own is it a Harley Davidson? Am I pronouncing that right?
Or is it a Triumph 750?
Yeah. And he'd just go,
bang.
No, it's Harley Davidson. Oh, what year, sir?
Yeah.
Is that like considered a good year? Well,
let me tell you.
And that was kind of.
But that technically didn't make him a great teacher, though.
He was a terrible teacher because I didn't learn anything.
Yeah.
And even when he occasionally turned his mind to teaching.
Well, at the next Collingwood press conference, we should ask Nathan Buckley if he knows anything about motorbikes.
Or maths.
Yeah.
So anyway, they seem to be... he's just the guy at work. Buckley to me is the guy at work that you go, oh, how's that project going? And he goes, no, really well, and you go...
On track.
On track. We've got a good framework around it. And you go, it's like 2 years overdue. He's like, I know, but now we've really, if we stop the project now or changed anything, we'd be losing the momentum we've built up.
Yeah.
And you go, you've been saying that for
since 2012.
You always meet people like that. Like it's all, and people start to laugh. Like, yeah. Anyway, and I think Eid is done.
Oh, he's done and dusted. If he wants to stay in that footy game, it's Media Street or be a football manager, but his coaching days are done.
Well, who would take him as a football manager after how Collingwood's been managed?
Why would he want to? He's been there and done it all.
But he's not an astounding media performer, either.
No, he's not. He's not. Oh,
I wonder if he can teach maths.
Oh, he should just buy a nice joint up in the Gold Coast and go fishing.
Hey, someone I hadn't really heard of until a couple of weeks ago because they apparently operate a lot not in the sports world,
right,
is Waleed Ali. Have you heard of this guy?
I've heard of this bloke, yeah.
Waleed Ali, who I don't really have a view on one way or the other, until he came out and defended Basher Hooley. Was it Basher Hooley?
Yeah, it was Basher Hooley.
Yeah. He wrote a reference with Malcolm Turnbull.
Yeah.
He's come out and defended Bernard Tomic this week on Insiders.
Oh, yeah.
Outsiders, sorry. Insiders is the political one. Outsiders is the one. Offsiders, sorry. He said Outsiders, I think, is the show that Mark Latham was on Sky.
Or was it
which I don't think Waleed Ali got on.
A Francis Ford Coppola movie from the mid-'80s.
I don't think Waleed Ali got favourable reviews on Outsiders. He's come out and defended the fact that Bernard Tomic said he was bored. He said he's allowed to be bored. That's not a breach of the rules.
Well, no, it's not a breach of the rules.
Was anyone saying it was a breach of the rules? Yeah. I don't think anyone was. That was like
that that attitude was out. No, it was in.
I don't think anyone was like claiming that was the. So that's kind of like falsely representing what everyone was saying to begin with, and then arguing they're wrong based on that false assumption. He said he's not obliged to like it, and we're not obliged to like him. Well, I think,
and the same everyone could be said of Waleed.
I think everyone knows this, right? Yeah. Like, no, this is not the key point here that Waleed's arguing. Now, my thing about Tomic with this board thing, and I talked about this with Danny, but now that you're back in the hot seat, I kind of feel sorry for Tomic in a way. No, I'm not defending him saying he was bored, because I just think, well, I think where it gets people annoyed is, hey, Bernard, there are people way worse off than you in life. Like, you've got a good... Stop being such a sook.
Yeah, stop whinging.
And whinging. And we're all bored at work sometimes, but seriously, like, you've got an opportunity that very few of us get, and you're treating it like with disdain, and that's what gets people upset, right? Yeah. Now, Australians like to think we like our sports people who give it their all, but in reality, do we all give it our all at work? Rarely.
Nobody does, but
most Australians are pretty good at not giving it their all, but looking like they are. But the thing I feel sorry about Bernard in a way, which is not to say I don't think he's behaved like a brat more often than not, is you can just imagine, like, from what I've read and heard him speak about, he's like the guy who got railroaded into the family business. From before he was born, he was just made to play tennis and be a tennis star by his dad, and that happens in tennis a lot. It doesn't surprise me that often these people wake up and go,
I'm over it.
I never was given a chance to decide what I wanted to be, and here I am stuck in here. Now,
there's ways of responding to that, though.
Yeah, and most of us don't end up getting $1 million as compensation for being...
And this is the thing. I think this is why people have really turned on him. But it's the arrogance of I've made so much money and I'm only 24. See, the dumb thing is... But do you think
he's saying it arrogantly, or he's just stating a fact?
I think he's stating it arrogantly, but not with the brains behind him to see how people react. He has no self-awareness.
Yeah.
And he's not smart enough. And the bottom line is that money is he'll go through it fairly quickly if he stops playing tennis. I mean, look at old Boris Becker. He was a lot better player than old Bernie.
Well, you can't
he went bankrupt the other week.
If he was the sort of guy who didn't drive around in pink Ferraris, I'd probably have more confidence that he was going to make it last forever.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I kind of feel with Tomic, like, if someone had given me millions of dollars at 24, would I have handled it really well?
Oh, no, of course not.
The answer's no. I mean...
No, but there's ways of doing it and saying it, and he's rubbed everyone the wrong way.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, what does he do next? Does he front up for the next tournament? Does he... I mean, he may as well announce his retirement.
Well, Matt, I mean, but he's still in the top, what is he? He's in the top 50. He's dropped a bit. He was in the top 20. I mean, he's at this level without much effort. I mean...
Yeah, but the thing he's made clear now is that he isn't going to make the effort. He ain't ever going to make the effort to be up with the big guys. Whereas Kyrgios, the jury's still out on him.
Well, he sent a tweet showing himself doing some exercise, and everyone went, "Oh, he's on the right track."
I think Kyrgios he's seen the opportunity. He's gone, Bernie, he's taking the heat off me here. He's taking the heat off me. I'm not going to have to do a lot to suddenly have people like me again.
Nick would be smart, and maybe he's already cottoned onto this. Watch what Bernie does and then do the polar opposite.
Oh, I think he's trying to do that.
But anyway, it is kind of interesting. But I think people who see people who've got a lot of talent, not just Australians, get annoyed when they see that talent wasted.
Yeah.
That's a fairly natural human reaction.
And if he has a meltdown sometime down the track, like a swimmer boy.
Swimmer boy.
What's his name?
Could you vague it up a bit?
Gold medal.
Grant Hackett. If
he has some kind of, mental or physical breakdown like Grant Hackett did down the track, he ain't going to cop a lot of sympathy from the general public. Whereas Grant Hackett, and we've cracked Grant Hackett jokes for 2 years, but everyone actually wants him to come good. I mean, that's a good thing. But
except for the writers of this podcast.
Yeah. But
Dooley, is that what we want?
The nipple cripple thing was pretty funny.
Now, we got a lot of talk last week about you not playing and not doing the podcast, and a lot of people doubted you being sick.
Yeah.
Because they thought, hello, the lockout's on in the cricket. Serge is off to try and get his baggy green.
He thinks I'm up at Cricket Australia hanging around the
I said you were shooting
desk.
a KFC ad. being the way you are. Now, depending on whose side you're on in this is either a lockout or a strike.
Yeah, well...
I've long viewed that. So my view of the cricket thing has been from the very start is, look, maybe Cricket Australia are in the right, maybe Australian Cricket Association are in the right, but Cricket Australia, even if they've got right on their side, have not made the argument of why we should move away from a revenue thing. They have not told us why it's broken. If anything, their revenue just keeps going up over the last 5 years, and it's projected to keep going up. So they've come out and said, well, it's all terrible and we've got to change it. And you're like, well, hang on, why? And they haven't come out and argued why.
And they're the ones who can solve the problem.
And then they came out very early in the piece, before it had become even apparent to the public that there were even real issues going on, and went, we're going to lock the players out come June 30 if they don't sign an MOU. And then they've repeatedly tried to go around the union. So to me, I think they've played it incredibly badly and then have effectively locked the players out here but they haven't even been tough enough to lock the players out. They've just said, well, there's no MOU. Yeah. And so they haven't said, and then they've said, there's going to be no MOU, but you can still go on tour. And it's like, wait, hang on, how's that work?
Why would I do that?
And they're refusing to negotiate. Like James Sutherland says he's not seeing down with the...
Yeah, he's been nowhere to be seen.
Nowhere to be seen. So you hear more about Pat Howard and their chairman than you do, you hear it all about Sutherland.
Well, Sutherland's been in London for the last couple of months, but has not put his head up once.
So the tour of Australia A touring South Africa is off. It's not going to be on.
And again, you'd ask, will anyone notice other than those dozen players?
Exactly.
Yeah.
At the same time, the Australian Cricket Association, the union, have sent someone off to India to try and sell the rights to the Australian cricket team to sponsors to raise money to fund them basically not being paid. And not just the top players, but all the way down. Now, this creates enormous headaches for Cricket Australia if it actually happens because... while there was an MOU, Cricket Australia had the rights to all the players and could sell it to KFC and Optus and all the various...
Which is why you see the KFC ads with all the players.
But now all the Cricket Australia sponsors have lost access to the players and there's nothing stopping the players to go and sign new deals because they've got nothing on them. So now whether this is a bargaining thing to sort of put the pressure on the sponsors, which puts the pressure on the Cricket Australia...
It's not going to help the spot. Your KFCs and the Commonwealth banks of this world to be sitting there getting a bit nervous about this.
This isn't great.
We're paying you tens of millions of dollars a year for this.
Cricket Australia will say to those sponsors, look, this is a bargaining thing. We know what we're doing. But if you're a sponsor, you're looking at going, do you? Yeah. Because this has not been handled well for a long time now.
Yeah, and you're happy to take out millions of dollars each year in sponsorship.
Yeah.
This is what, as a sponsor, we expect certain things in return, and they're not happening now. And just you saying, it'll be okay, it's not really cutting it just at the minute.
So have you been called up yet to be captain of Australia?
Haven't been called. I'll put in a couple of calls myself. But
it's a train wreck. I can't see where it's going to change.
No. Look, on one hand, I sort of want to see the Ashes go ahead with a scab team, you know? Not idiots like myself, but... Maybe.
But who would play?
I don't know.
Because you're going to be ostracised by everyone else. And then seeing a scab team go out and lose badly to England's hardly going.
But what about recently retired players?
Even that, though, because they're all sort of still part of the Australian Cricketers Association. And because so I don't know who's going to want to do it.
Well, in that case, it's going to have to come back to, dud local cricketers.
Well, it's the Australian Cricket Association, if the players, and Steve Smith says they will, if the players stick fat together and don't break apart.
And it looks like they have up till this point.
Yeah, but if they keep doing that for, as paychecks don't come in and, things like the BBL might not happen or the Ashes don't happen and, it's the players I'm not worried about the David Warners of the world. I'm worried, it's more likely the Sheffield Shield players start to say, well, hang on, it's all fine for you, David, but I don't have an OLE to watch at home. I've had to sell it to feed my family. That's when the cracks could appear. But Cricket Australia, apart from breaking the union, what's their strategy? Well, their only reliance is that the players break. Like, that's their whole...
I was going to say that what they're doing, it's your classic strike-breaking thing, is that, okay, it might be hurting... If you look at it as the company versus the workers. So this strike's going on for a certain time. Yes, it's hurting the company's bottom line to a degree, but we know it's hurting those workers, those individuals more.
Yeah.
So if we can afford to wait it out, they can't.
But that's what
it's a classic thing. It's like the coal mines in England.
That's what industrial relations is, right? Yeah. Like, each side tries to, if it gets nasty like this, tries to outlast the other.
Yeah, but there's no prediction on how this is going to pan out now.
Yeah, and it's not, and there's no strategy. There's no strategy I can see of how to get around it. Which the AFL,
it's got to the point neither side can back down.
Went and found an out.
Yeah.
But the way Cricket Australia have done of just going around the union and stuff, they haven't been able to show to the public why they had to do that early on. Like, let's even say they did have good reasons, which I'm not aware of. Yeah. They never set the scene for that so that the public went, hey, yeah, these rich cricketers are really mucking them around.
I think that's part of their strategy.
They went too early.
Which has backfired, is that they were just thinking, the public will turn against them. These overpaid, spoiled brat cricketers want more money. Just we still pay our tickets to go see them in the Ashes series.
Yeah.
Spoiled cricketers wanting more cash. But I don't think the general public's gone down that path yet.
No, mate.
I'm not sure they will.
But they're just more looking at it going...
Get it together, you blokes. We want to see the Ashes tour. Yeah. We want to go to the Boxing Day and the New Year's Day tests. But it looks like it may not happen, and that ain't our fault.
I don't think this is going to have a huge impact or anything, but if you look at it, the A-League but the NBL, I actually think, a year, no cricket around and the NBL back into being a half decent competition again. Who's going to be the benefit if there's no cricket? Apart from AFLX, of course.
AFLX will take over the world. You're right, the NBL...
Something's going to have to fill the summer of sport without cricket.
Well, the NBL, I know, Melbourne United have already sold out nearly every home game.
Have they?
Yeah.
And the Brisbane Bullets are back this year,
You can only get a ticket to see a Melbourne United game now if you're a member.
Is that true?
That is true. I got a thing from Melbourne United the other day, just an email, saying, join up. It's the only way you'll get to see a game this year is to be a member because all the seats are already sold out. So what could happen is that they'll go from your Hisense Arena to your Rod Laver, which is great for the game.
Well, it's huge for the game.
It would, and that could happen right across the board, which is terrific for basketball.
And then A-League's the other one that should really be trying to...
But then you don't know what's going to happen with the A-League. With Football Australia, they could be kicked out themselves.
They're likely to trigger a strike.
Yeah.
Getting to our listeners' questions, Paul Bartlett wrote in, when does Mike Tancred take over as AFL diversity manager?
Oh, he's the perfect replacement for Ali Fowler.
But the difference is, Ali actually would hit someone. Mike Tancred just threatens to kill you. He doesn't actually kill.
But see, to our knowledge,
has he killed anyone? Not that
no,
we know
but see, this is why Mike Tancred, he's the smart one here, because he is still getting paid by the AOC, even though he's been stood down until the inquiry's over.
The second inquiry.
Yeah, he's smart enough to still get paid. Whereas old Ali, he's gone.
Yeah, boy, is he gone.
And the latest thing is that, there's apparently an affair in the AFL between a senior manager and a
young female staffer, which is a phrase you never want connected to your business.
No, you never do.
You never want young female. It's never a positive thing in the media where someone says, and they've developed a really great young female staffer to take over the CEO position or something.
Yeah.
It's always in a negative context.
And as I say, senior manager.
Saying, this is in the paper today.
Young female staffer. That's all they're saying.
They're not naming who it is.
No.
Do you care to take a guess?
No, I won't. But what I will say is, if there's one man who can sort this out, it's Mike Tancred.
Yeah, such a wonderful guy.
Yeah.
Yes, no, it's not that's not a great story from the AFL, but reading it, I didn't know how much of it was true and the true facts. It was a bit vague.
Well, the AFL cover-up unit have been pretty busy lately. This one's obviously slipped through to the keeper.
See, benefit of the doubt, and I'm happy to be proven wrong and probably will be proven wrong, but I would think with most companies these days, and it surprises me that they don't do this, right? So I know they don't do this, but it shocks me that they don't. You'd think the majority, and a lot of them do it, but when you get any sexual harassment claim,
yes,
wouldn't you know, watching these other companies like Maya had it happen, and you're looking at Channel 7 have had issues, and and then you hear this one at the AFL, which we don't know the truth of or the reality of at all. But to try and cover up one of these things would have to be the dumbest thing. I'm not saying the AFL are trying to cover it up, because the papers, the paper makes out like they haven't told people, but there is a proper process to follow. Yeah. And if there are accusations of this nature, you wouldn't run to the media in the first minute and go, "Hey, we've had a vague report, or we've had a report that we're investigating." You're going to investigate it with privacy around it first before you know. It's whether you find out it's true.
They haven't actually said there's
cover it up.
Any real
they're saying
issue
there's an affair
apart from an affair happening. Now, there's nothing illegal or wrong with an affair happening. It's when it turns messy.
Well, but there is something about, someone who's in a position of power having an affair. I mean, I know it's not necessarily a legal thing, but ethically you have to wonder, why you would do that. Yeah,
I know, but this is the AFL we're talking about.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot. Dylan Walton wrote, would more Ninja Warrior contestants be successful in completing the course if they were being pursued by Roaming Brian? If you knew you had to be interviewed by Roman Brian the minute you lost, that would motivate you.
You'd be scooting up that pole like.
That's my theory. Roaming Brian should go to the losers' change rooms.
Yeah.
That would end tanking overnight.
Much more.
Wouldn't that end tanking?
Yeah, it would, and it'd be much more entertaining as well.
North Melbourne would get sick of him. Terry Truthy wrote, will space-time continue to exist after the heat death of the universe?
I think you've got the wrong podcast in, Terry.
Well, this is the idea, the laws of thermodynamics, that heat, it's eventually dissipating as the universe expands to the point where the universe will eventually get so
space-time continue?
Well, I don't think that necessarily means space-time will end. Yeah. You and I have debated this long and hard, Serge. So,
Maybe it means FaceTime. Maybe it means will FaceTime continue to exist?
That's right. Well, it probably will.
Yeah.
Given, that's probably all living...
It's an app owned by Microsoft. But...
Apple. Yeah. Ben Johnson wrote in our last question, where do flies go at night?
Now, I've looked into this. I can tell you, flies don't live long enough to really care. At night, flies become more active the warmer the air temperature is.
Yeah, right.
So during the day, that's when your flies are going to be the most active.
Yeah.
At night, they tend to slow down and even stop. And often they'll go, and trust me on this, they'll rest underneath leaves.
That's true.
Just to get a bit of sleep.
Well, they need light to fly.
Yeah.
That's how they actually get around. So they're not nocturnal like mosquitoes. They actually is it diurnal or whatever?
Diurnal.
Yeah. That's what flies are. So there you go. This is the podcast to come with these sort of questions.
Yeah.
What will happen to flies though when space-time ends or the heat death of the universe?
That's a crossover question we're going to have to consider over the next 7 days.
Stephen Hawking and I have talked about in our correspondence.
Yeah.
In which,
do you know Steve
which
Hawking?
Is mainly his.
Do you know Stephen Hawking?
Yeah.
Yeah. I played golf with him once.
How'd you go?
He lied about his handicap.
There'll be letters, Serge. So there you go. Where do flies go? And then we need a question. Someone who's won.
Oh, yeah. Because
I think it has to go to. Going through my notes. We had a lot of good ones, actually, but I personally like the one about Kane Cornes and Damien Hardwick.
Yeah. Did he decide to resign?
Matt Lane. Did Kane Cornes decide to resign from the Metropolitan Fire Service because he felt he was better at starting fires?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That's the best question.
Well done, Matt. We will be in contact in getting you out. I've got a bunch more T-shirts to go out this week to various people who've won questions. So So well done if you have recently, and they'll be coming out. Same. We should add for last week's winner, Big Ted.
Good
to have you back, Serge.
Lovely to be back.
Everyone missed you. People keep saying, "Why are we so sick?" We're not. I'm not usually.
Oh, look, we've both been crook a bit.
This winter's been
Look, I think, too much alcohol and not enough sunlight.
If people saw us, they'd go, "Oh, this makes a lot of sense."
That's why they're crook. It's obvious.
It's amazing they can sit upright for an hour.
you can see when we get wheeled out at these live shows.
Thank you to everyone who's become a supporter, and thank you again to everyone who has rated us or left a comment on iTunes. It helps get the word out, and if you would like to do that, we'd appreciate it.
Yep.
If you want to come and see us, get in quick, because I think every show will sell out, and some of them I think will sell out in the next very short period.
Next few days.
So we're having a lot of... we've sold well over 1,000 tickets already, so we're pretty happy with that. So thank you to everyone who's already bought a ticket. And we're going to be back
on Thursday. We've got a big one on Thursday.
Can we say who the guest is?
Yeah, we have special guest, Rob Sitch, who's going to join us
from Working Dog, The Castle,
from Working Dog,
Utopia, D-Generation, Late Show,
all of those, The Hollow Man. The new series of Utopia starts next week on the ABC.
It'll be good to have someone funny on the podcast.
It'll be a great change, won't it?
Sure will.
He'll be the funniest guest that we've had since Eric Banner. There's no question of that. Or Danny McGinley.
That'll be Thursday, so we're looking
forward to that. Tune in on Thursday afternoon, that'll be out. So we've got to go and see Rob and record all that.
So we will see you then. We look forward to it.